So, alright, welcome back. So today I kind of want to go over the materials I've been using to create this artwork and kind of just go over some basics. Or tools or whatever you want to call them. So, let's see. Starting out, going over pencils. Alright, so first, your standard pencil is, you can sort of see it. It's a bit backwards though. But, here, let's see if this camera will pick it up. It sort of does. Okay, so your standard like yellow pencil with pink eraser on it is an HB pencil. That's the mid zone. It's got no, it's just standard. So then there's different ways the pencil can go. It can either go really hard or really soft. So the harder your pencil is, the less graphite it will be putting out on the paper. And also, getting darks on there, it'll be harder to get on. But if you have a light touch and you don't push extremely hard, it will be easily erasable. Okay, so now going on to what is called H stands for hard, B stands for soft. I don't exactly remember the why B is for soft, but there's a certain reason. So, let's see. Okay, it's kind of visible. So, the B is used for really soft. It creates darker lines. It also gets the graphite on pretty easily. And it creates bigger swaths of it. So, let me see. So this is a 4B pencil. And that's what the tip of the pencil usually looks like. And then here is a 3H pencil. It's a lot smaller. And the reason why there's that difference is one's a lot harder and it lasts longer. The other one is it's a lot softer and the graphite just goes on pretty easily. So that basically just goes over everything. Alright, second tool that I like to use. And that is using a blue pencil. You could sure use like a red pencil or any type of colored pencil. And what's nice about that is going over and kind of putting out your ideas in blue and then going back over. I tend to use an H2 pencil to go back over to just give it, a bit more definition. These are the lines I for sure want to follow and I want to do. And then if it's something like this or painting, then I'm able to fully go through and just say, these are the exact lines I want, and this is how I want it, and, just do all those touch-ups. So the blue kind of gives you that, moldability. Plus, also, it's kind of cool to do all your drawings in blue or a different color besides just your standard gray. Just something out there. Okay, so next thing that I've been using. Let's see. I've been using a compass. No, I have to make this joke. I'm so sorry. It does not tell north, south, east, west, or up and down. I know, crazy. What does it do? Well, it makes perfect circles. And it's also good for like finding the distance between movements in the body. So for me, when I'm building a body or creating a character or whatever, I try to get it as proportional as possible. So, for example, like my elbow ends right at my rib cage. Basically, right where my rib cage ends is basically where my elbow is. So I know if I am trying to get a different type of movement in the arm or a leg or whatever, I can find a midpoint in there and then make a half circle to just find that rotation to just make it look a bit more natural. And that's just one of the tools I use to get better proportions. And of course, you could do it to make circles or mapping or graphing stuff, but it's actually quite useful in like the artist sense. And I'm sure there's plenty of other things you could use a compass for. It's just not coming to my head right now. So going on to the next thing. This is a quill, and I think I've gone over it. And this is also another quill. So these are our modern day quills. Unfortunately, no eagle feathers. And then I'll show what goes in them. So there's like several different types. There's like really small nibs is what I'm about to show. I don't know how well these are going to be picked up, but this is the standard nib I use, and it just gets the best markings. And then here's the smallest nib I use, and the way you fill those up is by making sure there's a little hole in the center, and you make sure that you get the ink in there, and it drips down, and when you pull down, I don't know how well that's being seen, it separates. So the harder or softer the metal is, the more ink that will be outputted onto the page. So let's see, can I find, where's my really soft one? So this guy right here has a wider spread. So it just gets the ink all over. Or not like all over, it just makes a thicker line. Though you do need to remember that it doesn't hold as much ink, so more of it will get around. But you can also make thinner lines with that too. But generally I stick with the standard nib. Alright, second tool that I'm using for this, or whenever I do inking, is a paintbrush. And a paintbrush is always useful in any situation of, generally any situation of inking, because you can get different types of shadows. Yes, you can do cross-hatching, pointillism, standard hatching, there's a couple other methods. But generally I prefer shading and a gradient tone from, or like, you know, having something that feels a bit more natural and smooth, not as sharp edged. Yeah, not as sharp of an edge to it. So that's why I use a brush. And it's also nice because you can just paint your standard like background color. Okay, so this is the background color of this, and like, okay, let's start here. If you want to watch the stream, you can, but this, I think I say something about it, but at some point in the stream when I finally get down to painting and inking this, I go over with a wash. I usually use a bit of like here, I'll show. I can show better than I can tell. So this is a watered down ink. Gotta make sure that doesn't spill. And I usually have like a medium mix between water and ink, just to get like a medium wash tone. Sometimes if you add more water, you can just get like a really faint tone in there, just to create a background so you can build upon. And of course, you don't always need to do that. Sometimes you can use either a medium tone or lighter than medium to get the highlights that you want in your piece. And then I've already showed both of these, but the two inks that I use is an Indian ink, and then I also use this Higgins, and it's just a red. So those are the two inks that I use. There's a ton of different colored inks, there's a ton of different brands of inks. I will say with the current ink, the current black ink I'm using, it does not smell the best when it's first opened and it's first like made into art. So that's one thing you will need to kind of think about. If you're strongly offended by smells, I would suggest researching and seeing which one doesn't smell as strong. Like my red stuff doesn't smell strong. Alright, also like another tip for inking is, say you don't have nibs and you don't have a quill and you just don't own any of that stuff, but say now you have a black pen and you have watercolors. Perfect. And I'm pretty sure generally there is a black watercolor, fingers crossed. But you can always do it in like a different color too. But you won't get the same effect, but you'll get a similar effect, and it might actually be pretty cool. You might be surprised what you can create with other art materials trying to replicate something. And it might be something you might really like. So that's like another option if you don't have inking supplies. Let's see, what else? Oh, and of course, the greatest and the best thing that you could ever have is, get rid of that one, is the white eraser. So, white erasers are always going to be better than your pink pearl eraser. I think that's what it's called. Reasoning. Well, when you use the pink erasers, if it's old or even if it's new, it will leave a pink residue sometimes on paper, especially on nicer paper. So, you know, there's an issue there. But if you have white paper, or yes, if you have white paper. No, if you have white ink, if you have a white eraser, then there's less of a chance to get a residue. Yes, of course, sometimes if the eraser is covered in previous graphite or ink, it can leave a smudge, but you can always keep erasing and it will just break that stuff up. One downside to it is it will leave a bunch of residue. That's something you have to clean up. So the next best invention is, well, this. It's kind of hard to see what it originally was called, but this is a rubber eraser. So, or I think it's called a rubber eraser. I don't know exactly, but it's very moldable, and what's nice is it doesn't leave any residue. It's very good on charcoal. It's also very good with soft graphite. It won't, like any eraser, it's hard to get out like deep, it's actually not being seen, but sometimes when you push very hard, it's hard to get out those really deep lines. So that's just one thing you'll have to watch out for, but it does pick up stuff. And this is generally what it looks like after this one's been combined with two. But to clean this thing, all you need to do is pull it like silly putty and stretch it, twist, and then move it around, and that will allow that dirtiness from the lead, or I want to say lead, but it's actually graphite or charcoal or whatever, to get removed. And this one I've had for several years, so it's going to be a little bit darker, but they'll last for a good chunk of time and they're really worth it. Let's see. One other thing. Okay, so let's see. One thing I do suggest, if you say you don't want to do a completely inked, or you just aren't really into inking, what's another tool you can use to smooth out your shadows? You don't have a brush. Well, there's called smudge sticks. And all it is just really tight, rolled up paper. Sure, you can probably use your fingers, or you could just roll some paper up or use a bit of paper and kind of smudge everything together. That works too. What's nice about these is they come in different sizes, and some pick up more graphite, some pick up less. I think you can also use these quite effectively with charcoal, but no, you can use them quite effectively with charcoal, and it just kind of, it smears everything. But also, say you got an area too dark, you kind of want to make it lighter, you can do that. It also just, you know, helps smooth out those hard edges. So for an example, I can add more shadow to this. Something that might be a little bit hard with a pencil. You could totally do it with a pencil, and you don't need you don't need a smudge stick, but I strongly suggest you get one. Let's see, what else? Oh, of course. A ruler. So I generally don't use a ruler because I'm at the point where I like to have things not properly, you know, straight. So, of course, sometimes I will break that idea and say, no, it needs to be perfect, and, you know, I need to change this. And, of course, I will go back and use a ruler to create something, or something that I have great difficulty with, and I want to improve on it. I will use a ruler. So, strongly suggest that you do use a ruler here and there, but I also think it's good to eyeball stuff. It's a lot like music, in the sense, the more you work on your drawing, painting, charcoal, inking, whatever, the better you get. And the better you can just eyeball stuff and say, that doesn't seem quite right. And also, it's a lot like music, with picking up sound and being able to say, that doesn't sound quite right. I think it's a bit too sharp or a bit too flat. So that's just one, you know, extra thought in there. Let's see. No, I think that's all, like, generally the tools I use. Of course, a sharpener here and there. I don't have a sharpener on hand to show, but you'll just have to take my word. Yeah. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed, and I hope this is like a nice refresher of like tools, or maybe not a refresher, but, you know, just to know what materials I use and what materials you could maybe use in creating art or creating whatever you like. Anyways, I hope you guys have a good one.